Hey everyone, me Kevin here. Joe Biden just gave a press conference and gave us some insight into stimulus, student loan forgiveness, grants, minimum wage, taxation, specifically which stimulus package Biden prefers, when he wants to see it, what he's going to do if he doesn't get support from Trump, all of this. And he talked about this in about a 20 to 30 minute long press conference, but rather than play all of that, what I'm going to do, or what I already did, is I clipped the entire press conference down to about 4 to 5 minutes. And what we'll do is we'll just play it and watch it together, and I'll add commentary as necessary. So let's go ahead and pull that up. In the meantime, don't forget to get your 3 free stocks with Webull. Deposit $100, get 3 totally free stocks, and get life insurance in as little as 5 minutes. Also, check out the amazing courses linked down below. We do have that Black Friday month sale going on, which is going great. Thank you so much, and let's get into this. Now, Biden begins by summarizing what he talked about with business leaders, like leaders from GM and other corporations throughout the country. He apparently just had that discussion this morning. And so Joe Biden kind of breaks down what some of his initial priorities are, and then we get into some of the more detailed, like the stimulus and unemployment, as well as student loan items and others. Let's get into this.
We all agreed that we want to get the economy back on track. We need our workers to be back on the job by getting the virus under control. We're going into a very dark winter. Things are going to get much tougher before they get easier. And that requires sparing no effort to fight COVID so that we can open our businesses safely, resume our lives, and put this pandemic behind us. It's going to be difficult, but it can be done. And they all agreed. That means rallying the country behind a national strategy with robust public health measures, like mandatory masking, widely available testing with rapid results, scaled-up production of life-saving treatments and therapeutics.
This morning, by the way, I broke down a complete video on what Joe Biden's COVID and stimulus plan is, and we'll get a little bit more insight in this.
Safe, equitable, and free distribution of the vaccine. Right now, Congress should come together and pass a COVID relief package like the HEROES Act that the House passed 6 months ago.
This is an interesting note. We're going to pause here for a second and just say, he said, let's pass the HEROES Act, but wait a minute, we have 2 HEROES Acts. We have one that was passed in May, and then we have one that was passed in the House within the last 6 to 8 weeks here. And that's sort of called HEROES Light. And Joe Biden just said the one that was passed 6 months ago. The one that was passed 6 months ago is $3.4 trillion, going back to the large stimulus package. This is essentially Joe Biden endorsing the larger package, not the watered-down one.
Once we shut down the virus and deliver economic relief to workers and businesses, then we can start to build back better than before. We talked about how we have an opportunity to come out of this stronger, more resilient than we were when we went in. And I wish you could have heard corporate leaders and the major labor leaders singing this from the same hymnal here. We talked about the need to own the electric vehicle market. We talked about climate a lot.
That's going to be interesting for Tesla owners, NIO owners, other people interested in, EVs.
Building 550,000 charging stations, creating over 1 million good-paying union jobs here at home. The need for a federal government to invest more in clean energy research. You know, it's based on a simple premise. It's time to reward work, not just wealth in America. We're going to have a fair tax structure that makes sure the wealthiest among us and corporations pay their fair share.
He's going to talk more about stimulus in just a moment, but that's actually very interesting. He says we want to reward work, not just wealth in America. And this is something that consistently we've talked about on this channel. It's that the people who own real estate get bailed out first and get the most money. It's the people who own businesses who get bailed out first and get the most money as well. It's the people who own stocks who get bailed out first and get the most money as well. It's the individual workers who get screwed and left behind, the tenants who get screwed and left behind, and the students who get screwed and left behind, right? That's just the way the systems are set up in America. So he's right when he says this, and that might be a priority of his, but we'll see. I mean, there are a lot of roadblocks to making changes in stocks and real estate and businesses. And this is why I always advocate that any of you that follow me, what are you doing to establish a side hustle to save money on taxes? What are you doing to get invested into stocks and real estate?
When we build back better, we'll do so with higher wages, including a $15 minimum wage nationwide.
That's big, a national $15 minimum wage.
Forgiveness figure in your plan. Would you take executive action to achieve it?
It does figure in my plan. I've laid out in detail, for example, the The legislation passed by the Democratic House calls for immediate $10,000 forgiveness of student loans. It's holding people up. They're in real trouble. They're having to make choices between paying their student loan and paying their rent, those kinds of decisions. It should be done immediately. In addition to that, as you know, I think that...
So an immediate $10,000 write-off of student loan balances is something that Joe Biden is a proponent of. This is in addition to some of the other priorities that he has on his sort of COVID and economic relief stimulus package.
Everything from community college straight through to doubling Pell Grants to making sure that we have access, free education for anyone making under $125,000 for 4 years.
Free education if you make under $125,000.
Of college. And there is a program that exists now under the law that forgives student loans for being able to engaging in public service.
Yeah, but that program, usually you have to keep your loan for like 20 years, and then if you're working in a public service, then you can get rid of that student loan debt. But that sucks, because then you're out of the real estate market for 20 years, and that's dumb. Everybody should be getting into the real estate market. Now, not everybody will. You know, I know sometimes I get those questions, well, Kevin, if everybody's in the real estate market, then there's not going to be any deals to be had. But the reality is, not everybody's going to get into real estate.
I'm going to institute that fundamental change in that so it's able to be available to everyone that, in fact, is engaged. It's not being very well managed right now. So I'm going to do all of those things.
We have a problem with long-term unemployment that's growing fast right now. What would you do right away, specifically, to address jobs that may not return for months, may not return ever, including in communities of color?
What?
Yeah, and quick note about this. This is something the Federal Reserve freaks out about regularly. Federal Reserve says, look, it's not just unemployment now. It's the fact that people become less capable of basically being employees the longer they stay home. So we're creating basically a population that is less productive every day that goes by without the proper relief to get people back to work.
I would pass the HEROES Act. It has all the money and capacity to take care of each of those things now, not tomorrow, now. And the idea.
And this is a big statement, right? Again, he's doubling down. Just pass the HEROES Act. He's siding completely with Pelosi and Schumer. This is going to be interesting because remember, we're relying on, in the event that Biden does completely take office, we're relying on Biden to work directly with Mitch McConnell to get a COVID relief package done, unless, of course, Democrats win on January 5th in the contested Georgia election. We'll see. That'll be very interesting. Certainly, a lot of money is being poured into campaigning in that state right now. But assuming that Mitch McConnell remains in power in the Senate, Joe Biden's going to have to strike a deal here. So I wonder, is Joe Biden purposefully now going back to that $3.4 trillion figure to have more negotiating room with Mitch McConnell?
The president is still playing golf and not doing anything about it is beyond my comprehension. You'd at least think he'd want to go off on a positive note.
That's another interesting hit right there, is that you'd think that Donald Trump would want to leave on a positive note, like here I am doing one last good thing, providing that stimulus relief everybody needs or desires or looks for. It's interesting.
What is he doing? And there's virtually no discussion. And the Republican, we're told, I don't know if it's true, you may know, Senator, but there's 22 Republicans say they won't vote for anything. Well, there ought to be at least a dozen of them have the courage to stand up and save lives and jobs now. We should be doing it now, keeping those businesses open, providing the PPE, the protective equipment, as well as the PPP, the money that we allow people to get funding to keep their businesses open, everything from separation to testing to a whole range of things that allow businesses to open and stay open. That's what the plan was at the beginning. And by the way, if you notice in the very beginning, when they passed the stimulus program, the first two pieces, what happened? Businesses were staying open. And then when they weren't open, they were still able to make people able to get paid. But look where they are now. People are running out of unemployment insurance. What are they going to do? 20 million people are on the verge of losing their home because they can't make a mortgage payments. You have a larger number being kicked out and will be kicked out in the street because they can't pay their rent. And by the way, it's not just the renter. It's the outfit that owns the building. A lot of them aren't multimillionaires. They're running small operations.
That's an interesting reminder there that not every landlord is a multimillionaire, that it could be, there's a very high likelihood that you have an entire group of smaller landlords. Maybe as high as 45% of landlords are just individuals trying to run a side hustle, essentially.
Can they do it? This is about keeping Americans afloat. Get them through this pandemic. Get them through where their businesses are able to come back. The money's there. The money is there.
There we have Joe Biden's latest. The money is there, pass the HEROES Act, $15 minimum wage, grants, amongst other things stated here in Joe Biden's press conference today. So there you have the summary of what was said, the best parts of it. Obviously, you can check out the full portion of it by looking up Joe Biden's press conference today. But there you have it. Thank you so much for watching. Consider sharing this if you found it helpful. Check out those links down below for Life Insurance Webull and the courses. And folks, we'll see you next time.